guys, Miss Palmer here. We are going to read another chapter of Charlotte's Web today, and the chapter that we're reading is called Uncle. So remember, we just left off where Wilbur is on the way to the fair, and Charlotte is hiding in his crate with him, along with Templeton. So they're on their way. They have officially got packed up and are headed out. So, Uncle, I'm assuming maybe that they're going to be meeting someone at the fair. I'm not sure, so let's find out. And then after we're done, we're going to read another book that has to do with Easter, since Easter just passed. When they pulled into the fairgrounds, they could hear music and see the Ferris wheel turning in the sky. They could smell the dust of the racetrack where the sprinkling cart had moistened it, and they could smell hamburgers frying and see balloons aloft. They could hear sheep blooding in their pens. An enormous voice over the loudspeaker said, "Attention, please! Will the owner of a Pontiac car, license number H-2439, please move your car away from the fireworks shed?" "Can I have some money?" asked Fern. "Can I too?" asked Avery. "I'm going to win a doll at the spinning wheel, and I will stop at the right number," said Fern. "I'm going to steer a jet plane and make it bump into another one." "Can I have a balloon?" asked Fern. "Can I have a frozen custard and a cheeseburger and some raspberry soda pop?" asked Avery. "You children be quiet till we get the pig unloaded," said Mrs. Arble. "Let the children go off by themselves," suggested Mr. Arble. "The fair only comes once a year." Mr. Arble gave Fern 2 quarters and 2 dimes. He gave Avery 5 dimes and 4 nickels. "Now run along," he said, "and remember, the money has to last all day. Don't spend it all in the first few minutes." And he came back here at the truck at noontime, so we can all have lunch together. And don't eat a lot of stuff that's going to make you sick to your stomach. "And if you go on the swings," said Mrs. Arble, "you hang on tight. You hang on very tight. You hear me?" "And don't get lost," said Mrs. Zuckerman. "And don't get dirty." "Don't get overheated," said their mother. "Watch out for pickpocketers," cautioned their father. "And don't cross the racetrack when the horses are coming," called Mrs. Zuckerman. The children grabbed each other by the hand and danced off in the direction of the merry-go-round, toward the wonderful music and the wonderful adventure and the wonderful excitement, into the wonderful midway where there would be no parents to guard them and guide them, where they could be happy and free and do as they pleased. Mrs. Arble stood quietly and watched them go. Then she sighed. Then she blew her nose. "Do you really think it's all right?" she asked. "Well, they've got to grow up sometime," said Mr. Arble, "and the fair is a good place to start, I guess." So you can see a picture here. You can see them hand in hand running off down here, running towards the Ferris wheel and the merry-go-round. While Wilbur was unloaded and taken out of his crate and into his new pig pen, crowds gathered to watch. They stared at the Zuckerman's famous pig. Wilbur stared back and tried to look extra good. He was pleased with his new home. The pen was grassy, and it was shaded from the sun by a shed roof. Charlotte, watching her chance, scrambled out of the crate and climbed on to the underside of the roof. Nobody even noticed her. Templeton, not wishing to come out in broad daylight, stayed quietly in the straw at the bottom of the crate. Mr. Zuckerman poured some skim milk into Wilbur's trough, put clean straw into his pen, and then he and Mrs. Zuckerman and the Arbles walked toward the cattle barn and to look at the purebred cows and to see the sights. Mr. Zuckerman particularly wanted to look at tractors. Mrs. Zuckerman wanted to look at a deep freeze. Lurvy wandered off by himself, hoping to meet some friends and have fun on the midway. As soon as the people were gone, Charlotte spoke to Wilbur. "It's a good thing you can't see what I see," she said. "What do you see?" asked Wilbur. "There's a pig in the next pen, and he's enormous. I'm afraid he's much bigger than you are. Maybe he's older than I am, and has had more time to grow," suggested Wilbur. Tears began to come to his eyes. "I'll drop down and have a closer look," Charlotte said. Then she crawled along the beam until she was directly over the next pen. She let herself down on a dragline and hung in the air in the front of the pig's snout. "May I have your name?" she asked politely. The pig just stared at her. "No name," he said in a big, hearty voice. "Just call me Uncle." "Very well, Uncle," replied Charlotte. "What is the date of your birth? Are you a spring pig?" "Sure, I'm a spring pig," replied Uncle. What did you think, I was a spring chicken? Ha ha, that's good, isn't it? Mildly funny, said Charlotte. I've heard funnier ones, though. Glad to have met you, and now I must be going. She ascended slowly and returned to Wilbur's pen. He claims he's a spring pig, reported Charlotte, and perhaps he is. One thing's for certain. He has the most unattractive personality. He is too familiar, too noisy, and he cracks weak jokes. Also, he's not anywhere near as clean as you are, nor as pleasant. I took a quite dislike to him over a brief interview. He's going to be a hard pig to beat, though, Wilbur, on account of his size and weight. But with me helping you, it can be done. What are you going to spin a web? Asked Wilbur. This afternoon, late, if I'm not too tired, said Charlotte. The least thing tires me these days. I don't seem to have the energy I once had. My age, I guess. Wilbur looked at his friend. She looked rather swollen and seemed listless. I'm awfully sorry to hear you're feeling poorly, Charlotte, he said. Perhaps if you spin a web and catch a couple of flies, you'll feel better. Perhaps, she said wearily, but I feel like the end of a long day. Clinging upside down to the ceiling, she settled down for a nap, leaving Wilbur very much worried. All morning people wandered past Wilbur's pen. Dozens and dozens of strangers stopped to stare at him and admire his silky white coat, his curly tail, and his kind and radiant expression. Then they would move on to the next pen, where the bigger pig lay. Wilbur heard several people make favorable remarks about Uncle's great size. He couldn't help overhearing those remarks, and he couldn't help worrying. And now, with Charlotte not feeling well, he thought, oh dear. All morning, Templeton slept quietly under the straw. The day grew fiercely hot. At noon, the Zuckermans and the Arbles returned to the pig pen. Then a few minutes later, Fern and Avery showed up. Fern had a monkey doll in her arms and was eating Cracker Jacks. Avery had a balloon tied to his ear and was chewing a candied apple. The children were hot and dirty. Isn't it hot? Asked Mrs. Zuckerman. It's terribly hot, said Mrs. Arble, fanning herself with an advertisement of a deep freeze. One by one, they climbed into the truck and opened the lunch boxes. The sun beat down on everything. Nobody seemed hungry. When are the judges going to decide about Wilbur? Asked Mrs. Zuckerman. Not till tomorrow, said Mr. Zuckerman. Lurvy appeared, carrying an Indian blanket that he had won. That's just what we need, said Avery, a blanket. Of course it is, replied Lurvy, and he spread the blanket across the sideboards of the truck so it was a little tent. The children sat in the shade under the blanket and actually felt much better. After lunch, they stretched out and fell asleep. All right, so that's the end of that chapter. So they have officially made it to the fair, and we found out Uncle in this story is actually the pig that's in the pen next to Wilbur, and he is much bigger and much heavier, but doesn't look near as nice as radiant as Wilbur. So we will hopefully find out in the next chapter what the judges think of Wilbur, and hopefully they like him as much as Charlotte and everyone else does. So now, since the Easter holiday just passed, we are going to read the book How to Catch an Easter Bunny. If you watched my How to Catch a Leprechaun video, this book is going to sound similar, but obviously the main character is not a leprechaun. It is going to be the Easter Bunny. So let's go ahead and read along, and I hope all of you all had a wonderful Easter holiday as well. So this is just kind of a fun little book to help continue the celebration. I've been wondering long and hard with all my peeps and crew. We've made the eggs, and now I'm here to bring them all to you. My real name's a secret. My friends call me E.B. My special job means I must hide my true identity. So get it, E.B., Easter Bunny? But he's saying that's not his real name. Yes, I'm the Easter Bunny, and I'm coming to your home. If you have Easter spirit, then you might just see me roam. The first trap is quite simple, just carrots on a plate. I'm lightning fast. To catch me, you'll need better bait. A hole that's covered by a rug will never cause me strife. Have you forgotten what I am? Burrowing is my life. So he's burrowing underground. That means he's digging holes underground. So he wasn't scared about that rug that made him fall in. He just dug his way out over here. Now this is much more like it, a fully lit dance floor. I'll do a little hip hop, then dash behind the door. This next trap is quite clever, made by brilliant engineers, but it's hard to catch a bunny who has supersonic ears. You want to catch me for my eggs and magic basket too, but I've been hiding Easter treats since 1682. Look, you see the ship says EB. This trap nearly gets me, but check out all my hops. Watch me dodge the flying fish and cherry yogurt pops. I switch my size from 2 feet tall to something small and gray. Your Easter spirit is so strong, you'll see me right away. I'll leave so many Easter treats, no children will be sad, but when they see that I've escaped, they'll all be hopping mad. The Bunny Tumbler 2.0 sure takes me for a spin, but I've got lucky rabbit's feet. I know I'll always win. With all the treats delivered to children big and small, I've got one special stop to make to my favorite kid of all. See you next year. The end. So this reminded me a lot of How to Catch a Leprechaun because the Easter Bunny was too clever and too smart and too quick and did not get caught by any of those traps. So I love that we have a little connection to a book that we listened to a few weeks ago. I hope you all had an excellent Easter holiday. Don't forget to tune back in next week. We'll read another chapter from Charlotte's Web and then another picture book. Bye. Have a great day.